Hi and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of March 16, 2020. First, let's do a quick recap of the predictions for the previous week. In terms of the market direction, I predicted for the past week that pretty much every day of the week will be a down day, and I believe Tuesday and Friday saw market actually rebound somewhat. In terms of ongoing earthquakes and kind of other major geopolitical changes and or leaders dying or say corporate restructuring, reshuffling of the governments, etc. So all those kind of events associated with the background conjunction of Pluto and Capricorn, Pluto in Saturn and Capricorn. We had a few of those. I guess there was a noteworthy 6.3 earthquake in New Zealand. There was an, I guess, famous actor, Max von Sydow, passed away at 90, and there were some, I guess, important leaders passing away in Iran due to coronavirus and possibly some other ones, but I haven't really been following news this closely. Another sort of prediction that I made that was more global and background influence prediction was that there would be a focus especially end of February through early April, on various sort of increased governmental regulations, controls, embargoes, taxes, tariffs, and that there will be increased concerns about shortages, delays, as well as maybe announcements of building larger structures, large objects such as dams, or changes in sort of organizational leadership. Basically, I would say some of this one could have predicted without any sort of knowledge of astrology. Obviously, there are concerns about shortages of supplies and various kind of closures, and various governments in Europe, for example, have been announcing closure of borders, a limiting of the movement of gatherings, etc. So definitely we have that going on. That said, I did predict some of these events sort of weeks in advance, especially increased sort of tense times from about the end of February through early April, with particular focus on, I would say, between March 20th and 31st, which a lot of us still ahead of us. And obviously the tensions continuing to increase globally because of the ongoing spread of the coronavirus. And let's see, so some other predictions that I made was that there would be increased focus on financial area, and there might be particularly surprising developments related to banking earnings on March 9th. And also I predicted again weeks in advance that March 9th will see a major drop in the stock market, and indeed there was a really big drop, and indeed there was also surprising news, I guess, that New York Fed announced on Monday, on the 9th of March, that there would be increasing daily overnight repo operations. And there was also, I guess, focus on sort of what banking, central banks can do to help economy. So definitely there was focus on finance, earnings, of course, concerns about earnings and banks and what banks can do given the obviously toll that the pandemic is taking on the economies all over the world. And also on Monday there are other news related to similar kind of Neptunian topics, which would be of course news about oil prices going down. There was also news on the 10th of March. There was an explosion at the chemical plant in Barcelona, Spain. And in Iran, they temporarily released 70,000 prisoners due to the coronavirus epidemic, which again, prisons, any sort of places like of seclusion, monasteries, for example, hospitals, etc. All of those, again, are under sort of influence of Neptune. So all of those Neptunian events clearly were, occurring strongly on that day. And also we had some announcements again related to oil, and of course because the announcement basically by I guess OPEC that they couldn't really make some deal with Russia about I guess cutting the production, and also I think it was Saudi Arabia that made an announcement that they would be actually increasing the production and cutting the prices, something like that. Those kind of announcements, they came out right at the time of the full moon, with strong involvement of Neptune in aspects of both sun and moon. So we will continue having this strong emphasis on Neptune, which includes, again, oil, gas, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, prisons, places of seclusion, of course, all this quarantine. People kind of are in a prison, even if they're at home. So all of those will continue to be sort of strongly emphasized for the next 3 weeks, again, because we're going from one full moon to another for about a month-long cycle. So let's see. So moving on to predictions for this week, and I would say into the next, we can expect continuing, I guess, on one hand, background influence where there's an increased probability of, again, massive earthquakes, disasters, and particularly strong, it will be felt particularly strong from, March 16th through the 31st, but again, from end of February to early April in general, but particularly March 19th, 22nd, and then March 29th through 31st, may see a really strong probability of like a really massive earthquake, some building collapses, like a tall building especially, or a tunnel, or mudslide, or something that basically we have a long, tall rather, structure, and it collapses and buries people, or it could be sort of people at the top, be it at the top of the corporation or government, that something happens to them. So maybe, airplane with representatives of particular important corporation, or perhaps governmental leadership suffers some sort of an accident. And or there could be also things like power outages, airplane accident, as I said, or a serious event of some other kind involving governmental authorities, powerful governmental or corporate leaders, either getting, like I said, into an accident, or there's a reshuffling in terms of who's, at the top, or there's just really some significant event. That's in addition to this whole ongoing tension, and global kind of problems due to the coronavirus. So let's see. And then on off all year, we have another background influence where we will have, again, emphasis on restructuring governmental sort of leadership, and also increased governmental regulations, controls, taxes, tariffs, and embargoes. And these will be on off kind of felt throughout the year. But as I said already, I think last week, it will be felt more strongly between sometime now and early to mid-April. And in particular, March 22nd, I would say 31st, we'll see really kind of a super duper, I would say, tense times where not only coronavirus, not only all these reshuffling, but also could be additional, sort of entities taking advantage of this time and coming up with things like, cyber attacks, terrorism, problems with nuclear or recycling plants, something happening underground, like literally some sort of a recycling facility, or maybe storage of nuclear waste, and there's some problem with that, and it just may happen, again, sort of all on its own due to maybe an earthquake or just an accident, or it could be intentional, such as a terrorist attack. And then moving sort of forward, another kind of tense time in the upcoming months will be, I would say, sometime in June of this year. And in terms of the market moves, I would say that I'm predicting this for this week, except I think Friday, slight probability of market going up. But overall kind of trajectory between, like I said, say 16th of March and into early April, I believe the market will continue going down. And in particular, March 31st may be an important top and or bottom day for the market. So it could be some sort of a reversal day, as well as April 3. That's a few weeks ahead, will also be an important day of important, like, large market moves. So for US, I guess, again, the entire year through even December of 2021 is going to be again, time where we will have these slowly developing important kind of changes related to international agreements, negotiations, diplomatic relations, partnership, but also retail sales, media outlets, and businesses related to communication and transportation. In 2020, particular dates of particular importance are February 14th through July 7th, and especially March 20th through 29th, and then later in the year, November 16th through December 12th. But this will be felt into 2021, where again, some of these businesses may undergo serious changes, which again could be involving car manufacturers, of course, airplane manufacturers or airlines themselves, or really even social media companies, anything again that has to do with communicating and transporting goods or people, etc. And we may have these companies may suffer from problems with basically unpaid taxes, or there's some sort of a financial manipulation, and or literally death of some leaders there, or they're attacked, they're victim of some sort of a cyber attack, or they're involved in some sort of hacking, and basically, or there's some sort of a secretive manipulation going on, and there's whistleblowing, and so basically they get maybe negative publicity due to that, but some secret is exposed and it basically may affect them negatively. At the same time, also we may have important news or transformational kind of time, again, the US this year through the next, particularly March and then November, December. May also be quite important time for companies related to like coal and mining, as well as trash recycling or nuclear power. So again, there may be some either secrets that were covered up, and then the whistleblower comes up and mentions it, or basically reveals the information, and there is negative publicity, and some things need to be shut down or regulated, or there's a cyber attack in one of those kind of businesses, and again there's a problem due to that. At the same time, these businesses may also undergo some sort of restructuring, because again, either leadership needs to be changed, or perhaps they're getting into problems because again they didn't pay taxes, or financially they're insolvent, they're into too much debt, and they're basically getting bankrupt, or they get involved, sued, for abuse, of sexual abuse in particular. So those kind of unsavory and problematic sort of issues may come up, and again, that's transportation, communication, and coal and mining, trash recycling, and nuclear power. And particularly this week, or rather I guess end of this week, March 20th or 22nd, may be especially kind of important for these companies, again for the US. And we may hear some important news, potentially some upsetting announcements related to either some breakup in a partnership, breakup in an agreement, or one side is taking a really aggressive move, or there's really literally a fire or shooting at the business, maybe related to communication or transportation, or some large retailer comes under attack or suffers financial loss. Maybe, like I said, there's a hack or cyber attack, perhaps, or for example, communication, transportation business comes under duress because of the governmental controls, or again, there are problems with debt, or because again, there's a whistleblower comes up and reports on some illegal behaviors. Also for US this week, especially 17th through the 20th of March, may see unfortunately favorable conditions for sort of easily spreading infectious diseases. Of course, that includes coronavirus, but not only anything that spreads through like water or liquids or wet conditions, so dysentery, for example, or just poisoning of, say, water or pollution. And at the same time, I guess it's favorable for moving goods over long distances, especially via water, and or of chemicals, or shipping, say, pharmaceuticals, transporting oil, chemicals, etc. or legalizing some pharmaceuticals, or legalizing certain activities that are related to oil, gas, chemicals, navy, beverages, pharmaceuticals, religion, etc. At the same time, as I said, it also is favorable for other sort of Neptunian domains and for spreading related, I guess, information, rather disinformation, and for spreading lies. So there's definitely going to be a lot of that going on, where there may be an overabundance of rumors, and in particularly when it comes to the spread of like infectious diseases, again, that's for the US, it may be the sort of facilitating factor or contributing factor will particularly be either laws that are kind of applied or misapplied, or international connections, international travel. So the source, it has something to do with international connections, or, laws, or even universities and sort of places of higher education. Then for China and coronavirus, sort of a long-standing prediction that I've made already weeks ago, but it's kind of continue on, is that I believe that there will be multiple waves, sort of up and down of this development, again, specifically in China. And I know right now things seem to be getting under control. However, for China, this whole area of pharmaceuticals, oil, gas, also kind of topics of like quarantine, isolation, or water pollution, chemicals, etc. Those topics will actually continue to be quite prominent throughout this whole year, and become even more prominent from about August through November. And I believe not until November of 2020 is when we will hear about either, say, final resolution of this, pandemic, or there are, follow-up kind of reforms in the area of including, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, but also any of these other areas, such as, how to treat people in hospitals, or how to quarantine people, literally, how to sort of, anything to do with even Navy, or ensure that population has clean water, etc. All of those topics will continue to be sort of investigated. Maybe it will have a positive effect, where it will bring about some sort of reform, again, related to healthcare, for example, but it may also see another wave, or multiple waves, in fact, in China, where we may have additional flare-ups of coronavirus, and in particular, I would say July 6th through the 24th, then October 26th through about November 20th, may see additional kind of increased news related to these kind of topics, which is, again, pharmaceuticals, oil, gas, chemicals, and either reform in that area, or some sort of a peak, maybe, again, increased death toll, or increased change, or some sort of radical measures undertaken to take care of one or more of these related areas. So let's see, for oil, I said, indeed, for another about 3 weeks, there will be increased focus on oil prices. There may be some relevant sort of events coming up around, around March 27, 24th, April 3rd, and then April 12th. So there may be some important announcements. Then may see either reversal in the oil prices, or announcements that may be, again, relevant for sort of trajectory for the oil prices. And at the same time, further ahead, we will have a period of about June 8th through the 15th, especially June 10th through the 11th, where these same topics, again, oil, kind of fighting over oil, or really like upsetting events related to oil, gas, chemicals, including even, fire, like a fire in the marina, fire at the oil rig, or attack on an oil processing plant, for example, may take place. And June 10 and 11 will probably also see a large market drop. So for this week, as I said, pretty much market probably will go down every day of the week, and it may reverse to up either on Friday and or perhaps as early as Thursday evening. At the same time, the week will be very eventful, and in particular, there will be increased news, especially March 17th through the 20th, about governments undertaking kind of even more strict measures, imposing more regulations and restrictions, various closures, slowdowns, controls, the various cautionary measures will likely be implemented in addition to what we've already heard so far. March 18th through the 20th may see kind of more news about sports and athletes, especially things to do with like fighting or racing, any risky activities like that. There will also likely be more controls in that area, limitations, delays, and sort of governmental regulations. So something along the lines of, events being canceled, perhaps Olympic Games being canceled, etc. And or even athletes that are prominent athletes suffering from some problems more than usual. Let's see, then on the 19th of March, which is Thursday, it will be likely very kind of, even though I'm recording this on the 16th of March, on Monday, I have seen already that the market had dropped. Dow Jones went down like 3,000 points, which is, I guess, the largest single drop in a day, I guess. I'm not sure if it's ever or in a really long time. However, I guess more is yet to come. March 19th looks like another very strong influence day where we may also see a really major market move. I think it will be a drop. However, market may reverse to up late afternoon and or on Friday. At the same time, other news on Thursday that we may hear will likely be again expansion, on a global scale of governmental regulations, controls, various closures, important announcements about governmental leaders or corporate leaders. There may be important also news about either a military leader or an athlete, and that person may either be sort of receive more freedom or set free if, say, they were in jail somewhere, or they may receive more freedom to act with more powers than before. So I'm not sure if it's a single military leader or perhaps, group of some sort of a military-related group of individuals. At the same time, there will also be increased news about oil, pharmaceuticals, and healthcare-related businesses and activities in the U.S. and in the U.S. Like 19th through 22nd, there may be increased news in the U.S. from the U.S. related to spying, hacking, terrorism. And so on the 19th, whatever the news are, market, positive or negative, which seems to me most likely negative, but even if they're positive, the market will most likely go kind of in a crazy overdrive, overreacting to things, and it will be either a really big sell, but at the same time, as I said, it may come with buying opportunity, so we may have a major sell-off at first, and then perhaps by the afternoon, it may turn into a big swing up, because again, people will be buying sort of on the low, on that drop. And in addition to that, as a background sort of influence that day, there may be increased news about things like fires, explosions, risky moves by either governments or large corporations. And these kind of fires or explosions or even risky activities may involve, again, tall buildings, governmental buildings, mountains, tunnels, bridges, old buildings, so some sort of old, ruins of some important castle or something like that. I don't know. Let's see, then on the 21st through 23rd of March in particular, I'm thinking 22nd, which is Sunday, I believe, there is an increased probability of major news about like major disasters, upsets, clashes, violent events, terrorist attacks, military clashes, and anti-governmental protests. So as I said, there may be more announcements by governments about these various clampdowns, but it may be accompanied by either protests from the population, or at the same time there just may be additional disasters, earthquakes, and or terrorist attacks may just occur simultaneously with all these other tense events. And finally, for US, 21st through the 23rd of March is also very important, and there may be increased news about changes or kind of entering into new partnerships or breaking up partnerships, various negotiations, agreements, and focus on retail, sales, communication, transportation businesses and projects. That includes IT, cloud service providers, social media platforms, of course, airlines, telecoms, high tech kind of companies, etc. There may be, again, some negative sort of news, upsets, clashes, violent events, and tensions with partners even, and or I guess some sort of bickering with not so friendly countries, and there may be mutual accusations of either spying or financial manipulations. There may be cyber attacks, so we may have social media sites going down, for example, or cloud providers experiencing outages. Retail providers may be under some sort of a attack, like being hacked, etc. Or I guess with all this, people storing various goods, maybe they're literally going to be attacked by just buyers. But I think it's more along the lines of like cyber attack. Maybe shopping online is kind of gets out of control, and again, the retailers will just be so overwhelmed. There may be outages. So again, important to note that we are sort of in the middle of this influence. Not only this whole year is tense, but also specifically through about early April, there will be continuing sort of even kind of higher tensions. We have lots of planets in Capricorn combining sort of their energies together, and again, that has to do with slowdowns, concerns about the government or government imposing stricter regulations than usual, and just various kind of concerns about losses, problems, etc. Kind of more of a sort of a stressful time of pessimism, etc. At the same time, we will also have kind of planets entering Mercury into Pisces, and then we will also have soon Saturn and Mars getting into Aquarius, which will again probably coincide with problems for things like airlines, IT, businesses, anything to do with like lives on a network or is cutting edge. Things may either slow down there, however, they may slow down for a good reason, where things may need to be sort of reorganized, restructured, and taken kind of more seriously with better preparation. However, if that does take place, there may actually be over the next months, we may hear about some innovations in those areas where things are now more reliable, function better, etc. So something like more solid, like it's an electric car, but it is more solid and actually functions better than before, because again, certain things are now had to slow down and reevaluated to ensure kind of a greater safety, for example. But that's kind of in the upcoming months. So in the meantime, this week through April 3rd, tense times, market down overall, with March 31st and then April 3rd being potentially strong down days, with increased concerns about, again, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, virus, oil, gas, chemicals, lies, deceptions, etc. And then, as I already mentioned before, globally, June 8th through 15th may be another period of these same topics coming up again, concerns about healthcare, oil, gas prices, and potentially market down strongly around June, especially 10 and 11. So in the meantime, I guess hopefully this information, you'll find it helpful, and to just kind of keep in mind that, again, these are just cycles, and right now we're in the middle of this kind of fairly rare cycle, but it doesn't last forever, and in a few weeks things will get better, and this is an important year, obviously, and so just, pay attention to your health, and stay safe, and enjoy, I guess, your life in the meantime as much as you can. And I'll catch you guys later, and have a great week, everyone. Bye.